طول ما البابا موجود ممنوع نخاف من إشي.
شو فايدتنا كأهل بس مش قادرين نحمي أولاد؟
This movie is hard to watch, and which is great. I love this film that talk about generational trauma, generation, because we rarely talk about this in real life. And I wonder from a cultural standpoint, what personal truth do you feel finally you are ready to explore with this movie that you hadn't touched before?
It's a really good question. I mean, it's interesting the way you ask that question because I had been wanting to tell the story for a very long time, but it wasn't until I made my first two features that I felt ready, emotionally to kind of explore this story, like the story of the Nakba and the ongoing Nakba, which is a collective trauma for all Palestinians. And I grew up with a Palestinian father who was exiled in 1967 and obviously had a lot of heartache and pain, around the exile and just around what was happening back home. And throughout my life, I watched him become more and more disillusioned and angrier as he watched the total, kind of degeneration of his homeland, as things just got worse and worse. And the chronic stress and the worry and the devastation of it all just really impacted his health. And I feel like a lot of my life, like I watched his reaction to Palestine and thought, I don't want that to happen to me. Like, it was like, wow, look at what's happening to him, even though he's so far away. Like he's not living under occupation. He's not directly in the line of harm or violence. And we did go back and visit often, even though I was raised in the diaspora, we went back and we visited, and I did see him humiliated and harassed at borders and checkpoints. But I think it was the inheritance of trauma that I observed in myself through him, like kind of, and then really seeing my own identity form almost in opposition to him, where I saw how much he suffered because he was holding on to Palestine so tightly and he was so angry. And I wanted to find a different way. It was like really about kind of maybe looking more towards the future or trying to see if there's a way that I could do something beneficial through filmmaking, through making a film about the trauma, about what it is that we're holding on to and how it's impacting us. And it was really a question for me when I started writing this. And like I said, I started thinking about it like back in 2014. So long before current events, I wrote the script in 2020. So I thought about this story for many years before I started writing it, because in some ways I was unpacking my own trauma. And I was really trying to ask the question, is it possible to heal from something that is ongoing? Like it's not past, it's not like post-traumatic stress, it's present traumatic stress. It's totally ongoing. And so I wanted to explore that question within myself. And I just wanted to explore the possibility of, can we make meaning from our suffering? Even when we're in the midst of it. So those were the kinds of questions that I was looking to explore when I first started thinking about writing this.
Because
Yeah.
you're telling the story of the origins of this conflict, basically. And,
right.
and that takes time, that takes research, that takes
right.
also personal experience, personal pain. I watched
Yeah.
an interview where you have a memory with your dad. It's kind of being searched and you're witnessing what's going on.
Yeah.
And that stays with you. That's a core memory, but it's not a good core memory that you have. And a
Right.
kid shouldn't be present of this. And when I watch films like this, it seems that far from I grew up, I'm from Dominican Republic. Latin American countries also have dictatorships and people being moved away, even from the same Dominicans, the same Latin American people. Like we have inner, conflicts in our surrounding. Uh, there's something that we live still. It's the memory of your parents, your aunts, the friends of your parents. And in your film, I felt that this memory is kind of another character inside of the storytelling. And I wonder what guided the way that you brought this past into present on screen, and it feels fresh. It feels like I can identify, and I don't need research to go back and see because your film gave me a lot.
I'm really happy to hear that. Yeah, I feel like memory, it's so interesting because in so many ways, for those of us who have, and I speak about it as if I lived during that time. Like memory is so interesting, right? Because there are memories that are passed down to you, and like it's almost as if you live them yourself. Like they become such a part of your identity that it almost feels like a part of you. And I feel that way with Palestine, it's like Palestine for me, especially growing up in the diaspora, was a bit of an idea. It was a lot of memories strung together, memories of different people, my father, my grandfather, my aunts
Yeah.
and uncles, my cousins. It was memories and people like, sometimes held on to the good memories, very often didn't speak of the bad memories that happened to them. It was always easier to speak of the like other people's bad memories or bad experiences, And so in some ways, I feel like, yeah, many of us who kind of experience, uh, the like whether it's dictatorship or occupation or war or just like the falling of our countries, to whatever powers that be, in some ways we're living in the shadow of the memory of what was.
Mhm.
And so I feel like that was such a big part. I feel like it's a big part of our identities. It becomes part of like who we are. And I wanted that to be a part of the movie because it is in some ways how the passion for Palestine is passed down to the next generation is through memory, is through story, is through, like really communicating to the next generation what was, what we had, and I feel like so much of the world doesn't actually even know what we had,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you can also relate to that. It's like they don't know what our countries were before. So how can they mourn what we lost if they don't know what we had? But we, the ones who grew up in the shadow of what was, we viscerally feel what we used to have, even though we never had it. But our grandparents did, our parents did, and they passed that on to us as if we lost something ourselves personally.
But think about it now, the generation that will be living in 25 years after this, after what's
Yeah,
going on now, they're gonna have two kinds of memories. They're gonna have your memory and your parents' memory, and
right,
now they're gonna have this memory,
right,
and they have to, I don't know, probably create a new one,
right,
and they have to find a way to create it because in, I'm going back to what I know, and we have these dictators, Trujillo. I never lived in that era, but I only know information from people, from documentaries, from
yeah,
everything around me.
right,
So I never lived it, but some people liked it. Most people hate it, and they tell story around it. But
right,
my memory, I don't have my memory. I have a prefabricated memory of that
right,
situation.
right.
So that might happen to people from
Yeah.
Palestine in 20 to 25, 30 years.
No, absolutely. I mean, especially, if the current situation continues, that's what we're going to keep doing, right? Like there's no way to actually let go. For me, I think like there's really no way for Palestinians and others in this kind of a situation to kind of let go of the past until at the very least we recognize the past and we remedy the present. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So, like, the recognition of the Nakba in 1948 has to happen. There's no way that we can move towards any kind of a just peace without that. Right. And then so many other things have to happen. The end of the occupation, the end of the apartheid, the end of obviously the genocide in Gaza, like all of these things, and if not, then memory will continue to be passed down. And the younger generations will carry the burden. And in so many ways, that memory is part of the trauma, isn't it? Like we're
Yeah.
holding on to the memories of our ancestors and clinging to what we had and what we desire right now for our people. You know what I mean? And memory really is how we try. I feel like it's really part of the movement for justice, isn't it? Because that's how
Yeah.
you pass that movement on to the next generation and get them really impassioned about the fight for justice. Like it's like we need that memory in so many ways. But also the memory can destroy us. Like the trauma can destroy us. And so we have to look at that as well. We really have to look at what it is doing to us, you
Yeah.
know?
Now I want to talk about the creative process because you are the writer, you're the director, and you're an actor. And when you have these kind of three responsibilities, did you have any creative conflict to face all these three important positions in any project? And if you had this conflict, which one usually won?
That's a great question. The director definitely always wins. I think when it cut with me, I think the director wins. I mean, I think there are moments when the actor wins over the director, where it's just like, listen, this is what I had, this is what I gave. Like, you can't control everything. Like the actor in me says to the director. You know what I'm saying? When the director has a very specific idea of what she wants, but then the actor in me gives a different performance, it's like, all right, it's good. It's different than what you imagined, but it's good. Let it go. Like just, move on. So it's interesting because there are definitely times where there's conflict in my own self and where, I as a director don't really know how to move forward because I'm doing so much. It's almost like you're in the ocean and you get pulled into a wave or something and you don't know which way is up. Especially when you're the actor, like you're in a scene and it's emotional and you let go and then suddenly you come out of it and you're a bit of a like just clueless director for a moment. You have no idea what just happened, how it went, and those are the moments where I think you're a vulnerable director and it's really beneficial to be surrounded by people who you really trust, who can say to you, "Wow, you have to watch that. It's like something good happened, or, that was good, but let's go again, or whatever it is, let's go again before you watch it." For me, it's just so important to have a team of people who I really trust and who are looking out for me. But definitely the director definitely wins out over the writer. I think when I put my director's hat on, like the script changes a lot based on the locations that I'm finding and the ways in which I'm planning to block a scene. And then I'll realize, oh, the writer was lazy here. I need to be more detailed. And so really the director takes over the writing, I would say, which is a bit of a relief because the writing, I feel like, okay, now I'm the director who's writing. So it takes the writing away, like in a way. Do you know what I mean? I'm not
Yeah, yeah.
bifurcating myself. It's like the director is writing now. And then sometimes the actor is writing. So in some
Oh,
ways, it's like the director actor is like the top, it's like directing, acting, and then writing because the director and actor are writing. So I try to simplify, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is like I try to, because it's all parts of the same process, and as a director, I can direct people. As an actor, I can direct from the inside of a scene.
mhm.
I don't have to talk to the actor sometimes. I just change my own performance and they give me something different. And I'm like, great, I didn't even have to say a word to them. So sometimes it streamlines the process, where I can actually just direct without having to say a whole lot.
But as a director, how do you create some emotional safety with your actors when you're also in the scene with them? Uh, because I think that's important for to have that control.
Definitely, definitely. I mean, I think that I think it's interesting because, as a director, you have to be vulnerable with your actors, so you're already, I think directors are quite vulnerable because to make the actors feel safe, you want to kind of create a bubble for them and a sense of intimacy, right? Where you're really listening and you're really communicating and you're really kind of there for them. Um, but when you're acting also in the scene, it's like another level of vulnerability. So I kind of found, and also I open myself up to the actors where, sometimes they'll come to me with something. Like they'll say like, "Hey, what if you try this?" And I'm very open to that. For me it's really a collaboration. And so I think that creative collaboration where I'm there and I really listen and I'm the kind of director who I create kind of a little circle around my actors where I'm never shouting a direction in front of other people. I'm always, even if it's like they're super far away, I will take the time to walk over to them and whisper to them and talk to them. But I also don't like to say too much because I think if you say too much, you get people thinking too much and you need
Yeah.
to keep them in their feelings. So I think it's like a fine balance, but definitely I think being vulnerable is one of the keys.
This conversation was supposed to be 7 minutes, so I'm glad that we're having this longer conversation. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, you say that you started this journey in 2014, and we are in 2025. And
Yeah.
I wonder what's left in you after you finish all this.
It's a really good question. I'm still trying to kind of figure it out, to be honest, because I've been, making this film. Honestly, it was one of the greatest challenges and one of the greatest gifts of my life to make this film at this time. And to have the film to take out into the world at this time, where it just feels vital to be talking about this, given what has been happening the last 2+ years. And I feel like because I'm still in it, I'm still getting like kind of figuring out what I'm gonna look like on the other side of it. And I think I'm good. I think it looks very different than it was, I think what's left of me is like much more empowered than before, is like a real sense of empowerment,
Hmm.
and a real sense of just a real willingness to just tell the truth no matter what, to just be as truthful as possible in my life and in my art. And even to the point where there were moments after I made this film where I thought I'm either going to retire or I'm going to just, I don't know, become a media mogul and like build a business, like build a studio. And it's like it's one extreme or the other is what it feels like. Either there's nothing left or there's everything and more. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure which one. I'm pretty sure I'm not going to retire, but I definitely may need a break after this because it's been a very intense 3 years.
That's good. Cherien, thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for make this movie. I loved
It
it.
was a pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. And yeah,
No, no, it's
enjoyed it.
ironic because like I mentioned, when I watch films like that, it just feel far from where I grew up, of far from, and I think it takes courage to present a movie like this in time like this when
Mm,
this is not an entertainment film and you're gonna
right,
have some people in disagreement with you.
right.
And I think it takes courage to make the film and to be present with the film because I know it was in Sundance, it was in Telluride.
Yeah.
Now you're in LA presenting this film, and I'm sure you have had some people disagreement with you, and you just keep going. And I think it takes courage to do that.
Thank you so much.
You just keep going, just keep
I
going.
will. I
That's
will.
it. Just keep
Thank
going.
you.
You made a great film. You have a great, and it's a beautiful film because it just take a side but kind of neutral. Like you don't say the who's bad or good. You just tell about people.
Right. It's
Uh,
yeah, very much a story about how all of these events that we've been reading about for decades impact
mhm.
people, definitely.
And think about it. People like me that come from another place, they don't know. Many
Yeah,
many people from many places, they just watch the news and they take a side,
right,
but they don't know how everything started and they don't
right,
know the story behind.
right,
They probably now with social media, you have more access to information, but also
right,
you have access to disinformation.
right. A lot of misinformation. And also we're being curated. Our news is being curated for us, right? So we're
Mhm.
almost all living in these siloed little bubbles.
And
So
we believe
it's
everything because it's said some guy in social media.
right, right, right.
So thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time.